Her toothbrush was still wet. I hadn't heard the water run. I had been standing in the hallway for 8 straight minutes, watching the bedroom door, counting my own breaths like a lunatic. And yet, the toothbrush? Still damp. The bristles curved like they'd just been used, only not by her. She was in the kitchen now, humming. That same soft little tune she always defaulted to when she was hiding something. A fake, almost childlike melody, but I knew the difference. I'd heard it when she'd lost a rent payment that ended up in a bag at her sister's place. I'd heard it when she said she forgot to tell me she'd taken a spontaneous weekend trip with her coworkers. Now she was humming it again, and I wasn't sure what disturbed me more, the sound itself, or the way it kept her mouth busy enough to avoid using it for words. I walked into the bathroom like I was moving through smoke. Every object suddenly felt suspicious. Toothpaste cap on crooked. A single strand of hair curled inside the sink. Her lip balm on the windowsill. Open. Still warm from a pocket. I opened the mirror cabinet. Not for a reason, just for something to do. Inside were the same old bottles of ibuprofen, my expired mouthwash, and a cheap bottle of cologne I hadn't worn since the holidays. But something was off. The cologne had moved. Not an inch. Not a smidge. Turned. Ever so slightly. Just enough to make you second-guess yourself. And that's when I knew. Someone had been in this bathroom with her. Someone had touched my things. Someone had kissed her hard enough to knock a toothbrush out of place and make her forget to twist the bomb shut. I walked into the kitchen and leaned against the doorframe like my knees might betray me. She turned around holding a coffee cup and smiled like we were in a sitcom. "You want one?" she asked. "I'd kiss you," I said calmly. "But I know exactly where your lips have been." And she just froze. The cup didn't fall. She didn't scream or deny it. She just stood there, eyes wide, mouth barely moving, like she had to calculate what version of reality I'd figured out. And then she did something that made me question everything. She laughed. Not loud, not hysterical, just one small, bitter laugh, like she'd been waiting for this moment. Like I was the last one to know the joke. That was the beginning, not of a breakup, not of a confrontation, but of something much darker. Something calculated. And I hadn't even opened her phone yet. She laughed. That bitter, shallow laugh still echoes in my head sometimes, like a glitch in a recording you can't unhear. Then she turned around and walked to the sink like nothing happened, like I hadn't just called out the filth on her lips with surgical precision. "Don't be dramatic," she said, rinsing out the mug. "You're being paranoid again." Again. Like I had a habit of inventing betrayal. Like my gut hadn't been warning me for weeks while she dismissed every instinct I had as needy or insecure. But no amount of gaslighting could explain the toothbrush, the untouched toothpaste, or the kiss that never happened. "I saw the bathroom," I said. My voice cracked, which I hated. I didn't want to sound broken. I wanted to sound sharp, measured, cold. But of course I didn't. I sounded like a husband watching his world quietly bleed out in front of him. She didn't even turn around. "Then clean it if it's bothering you," she muttered. I don't know what came over me in that moment, but I walked past her, opened the junk drawer by the fridge, the one where we kept everything from spare keys to random receipts, and started digging. It was pure impulse. No logic. But something in me screamed look deeper. And I did. There, jammed beneath an expired coupon for dog food and an old birthday card from her aunt, was a second phone. It was black, cracked, and taped across the back with a sticker that said Riley's. We didn't know any Riley. We didn't have a Riley. But she snatched it out of my hands so fast she dropped the mug she was holding, and it shattered on the floor like a gunshot through glass. The way her face drained when I touched that phone. That was the first real truth I'd seen in weeks. "You went through my stuff?" she barked. "Your stuff?" I whispered. "That's not even your phone." Her mouth opened, then closed. Then she did something wild. She stepped over the broken mug with bare feet and hugged me. Out of nowhere. Like she could crush my suspicion with physical affection. Her voice softened. "Please," she whispered. "Don't ruin this. Don't ruin this." That line. That exact phrasing. I can't explain it, but it felt rehearsed. Like it wasn't meant for me. Like she'd said it before to him. Whoever he was. Like she was repeating a line from a different script, with a different man, and I was just the stand-in she forgot to recast. I pulled away. Her pupils were dilated. Her hands were shaking. But still, no apology. No confession. Just more silence. More of that awful, humming tension. I should have screamed. Thrown something. Demanded answers. But instead, I walked into the living room, sat on the edge of the couch, and powered on the burner phone. She didn't follow. And when the home screen lit up, the first message on it made my heart stop cold. Still tastes like vanilla. You spoil me, Em. Vanilla. She hadn't used vanilla lip balm in months. Claimed it dried out her lips. But now I knew why she stopped. Because someone else liked it too. The moment that message popped up, still tastes like vanilla. You spoil me, Em. I stopped breathing. Literally. My lungs locked up like they were trying to protect me from what came next. But there's no protection from a betrayal that personal. I sat there with the burner phone in my lap, the light from the screen casting this sick glow over my hands, and all I could do was stare. Her name was Maddie, so Em fit. Vanilla fit. The late nights fit. But what chilled me most was the timestamp on the message. 2:14 a.m. Just 4 nights ago. That was the night she claimed she couldn't sleep because she had a migraine. She took her blanket to the couch, said she didn't want to toss and turn next to me. She didn't want to wake me, she said. But she had no problem texting him while I lay upstairs, oblivious, thinking she was fighting a headache. I opened the messages. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. There weren't hundreds. Just enough. Just enough to show it wasn't some one-night mistake. This was routine. Familiar. Ugly. Next time I want you to wear that cherry thing. He still has no idea? Let's take a trip. Just us. Soon. That last one was sent the morning after our anniversary. Our anniversary. She gave me a tie. A freaking tie. I gave her a necklace she never wore. I thought she just didn't like the chain. But now I realized it probably never made it out of the box. Not when she was planning getaways with someone who complimented her fake migraines and vanilla lies. I heard her in the kitchen, sweeping up the glass in silence. I think she knew. Not that I'd read it all, but that I would. She didn't even try to stop me. There was one message that stood out, sitting all by itself like a tumor in the thread. Delete this one. He's getting suspicious. I should have stormed in, confronted her, demanded names, details, reasons. But instead, I sat there frozen, doing what I always do when things fall apart. I overanalyze. I obsess. I trap myself inside a cage of imaginary conversations and perfect comebacks that never leave my mouth. Pathetic, right? And then the phone buzzed in my hand. A new message. From him. Same time tomorrow? I didn't reply. I turned off the phone, stood up like I was lifting 1,000 pounds, and finally walked back into the kitchen. She looked at me without blinking. Her eyes flicked to the phone in my hand, but she didn't speak. I stared at her, then at the mug shards still on the floor, then at her bare feet. You gonna lie again? I asked. My voice didn't even sound like mine. She said nothing, just wiped the counter with a dishcloth like we were still playing house. You going to tell me who he is? I asked again. Still nothing. So I set the phone on the counter between us like a murder weapon. She stared at it, and for a moment, I thought she might break. Cry. Beg. Instead, she said one word. Leave. That's it. Not, let me explain. Not, it's not what you think. Just that one ice-cold word, as if I was the problem here. As if I had crossed the line. I walked out the front door without grabbing my keys, coat, or even my shoes. I didn't care. I needed the cold. And I needed space. Because I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to burn it all down. I don't know how long I walked. My feet were numb by the time I realized I'd gone 3 blocks without socks, keys, or even my phone. But I didn't care. I needed space from her. From that house. From the burner phone sitting like a ticking bomb on our kitchen counter. The wind bit through my shirt, and every step echoed with that last word she said, leave. No panic, no denial, just a cold dismissal. Like I was some pest in her way. Like I'd interrupted a life she'd already built without me. I ended up at a 24-hour gas station, buying a bottle of water I didn't need just so I could stand in the warmth for a moment and think. That's when the ridiculous idea hit me. I still had access to her cloud account. She never changed the password after we got married. And the password? It was my name. My actual name. Back when I still meant something to her. Or maybe she just never bothered to change it because she assumed I'd never check. She wasn't wrong. I hadn't even thought about it in years. But now it was my turn. I used the cashier's side counter like a desk, signed into her account from my email, and was instantly hit with a flood of synced data. Photos, messages, locations, even audio memos. She'd been backing everything up automatically. For someone cheating so efficiently, she was careless in the worst possible way. The first thing I opened was the gallery. And right away I saw it. A picture of her in my hoodie. The green one I always wore on Sundays. Except she wasn't in our house. She was in someone else's bedroom, sitting on unfamiliar sheets, messy hair, making a peace sign. But that wasn't what hit hardest. What destroyed me was the arm in the corner of the photo. A man's bare arm, holding a champagne bottle. She cropped out his face, but not his initials tattooed along the wrist. A.L. I didn't know anyone with those initials. At least not in her circle. I scrolled faster. The next photo was worse. Her hand on a steering wheel, a selfie smirk on her face, and a text overlay that read, "He thinks I'm at yoga, LOL." My stomach twisted. She hadn't been to yoga in months. She even joked she hated stretching. And I believed every lie because I wanted to. Then I found the audio. I hesitated. I genuinely didn't want to press play. I didn't want to hear the voice that matched the tattoo. But I did. Of course I did. And what I heard made my heart seize up. Her voice. Laughing. Giggling like she was 17 again. And then his. "Your boy's never gonna see it coming." Then her again. Whispering, "He's too soft. He'll just walk away." I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. I just stood there in the middle of that crappy gas station, surrounded by chip bags and warm soda, while something inside me just unhooked. Like a part of me stopped defending her. Stopped hoping. Stopped pretending. I logged out. Tossed the water bottle into the trash without opening it. And as I stepped outside, barefoot and shaking, I knew I wasn't walking away anymore. No, that version of me, the soft, clueless husband, he was gone. And the new me? He was going back home. Not to fix things, but to expose everything. I didn't knock when I got back. I just walked straight in. She was sitting on the couch, cross-legged, scrolling through her phone like she hadn't just shattered our marriage 2 hours earlier. She didn't even flinch when she saw me. Just locked the screen and said, "Forgot your keys?" That was it. No apology. No fear. Just that same detached tone. Like I was the problem for making a scene. I walked past her, straight into the kitchen, and picked up the burner phone again. She hadn't touched it. That surprised me. I thought for sure she'd wipe it. Or hide it. But no. It was sitting there, same as I left it, like she wanted me to know. "You were sloppy," I said, staring at the cracked screen. "I found your cloud." That got her attention. She stood slowly, phone still in hand, lips parting like she might finally break, but she didn't. Instead, she just tilted her head slightly and said, "So what are you going to do? Yell? Throw something?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "I listened to your voice. You said I was too soft, that I'd just walk away." She didn't even blink. "I wasn't wrong," she said. "You came back, didn't you?" That hit harder than I expected. Because it was true. I had come back. But not because I forgave her. Not because I was desperate. I came back because I needed to see her face when I said this next part. "I know who he is," I lied. Her expression didn't change. "Aaron Lane," I said, pulling the initials out of thin air based on the tattoo. "A.L.?" And that cracked her mask. It was subtle. Just the smallest twitch in her jaw. But it was enough. "His real name is Anthony," she muttered before catching herself. I didn't say a word. Just let that silence eat her alive. "You weren't supposed to find that phone," she said after a long pause. "I only used it when I was sure you were asleep." "So you admit it?" I asked. "You cheated?" "I escaped," she said, almost hissing. "You think I wanted to end up married to someone who flinches every time there's conflict? You never fought for anything. You just folded." I should have walked out again, but I didn't. Instead, I took my wedding ring off and set it next to the burner phone. She stared at it like it was a piece of trash. Not even a blink of sadness. Just that same cold stare. And then I saw it. Her real phone, the one I'd bought her last Christmas, was still on the coffee table. And it lit up with a notification that made my stomach turn over. A calendar alert. Hotel key drop-off. 8 p.m. She was planning to meet him again. Tonight. After everything. I grabbed the phone. She didn't stop me. Didn't move. "Are you seriously still doing this?" I asked. "After I found everything?" Her voice dropped low. "You were never supposed to be part of this version of me." That line. I'll never forget it. Not because it hurt, but because it was honest. That's who she really was. A version of herself she'd kept hidden behind "I love yous" and grocery lists and Sunday brunches. She didn't even regret it. She regretted getting caught. I looked at her one last time and asked a question I didn't plan. "If I hadn't found the phone, would you have kept lying forever?" Her eyes didn't move from mine. "Of course." And that was the moment I knew. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I couldn't, but because I wouldn't. I didn't want a second of it to fade into a dream and give her the satisfaction of thinking I was processing, healing, or anything as gentle as getting over it. No, I was past mourning, past pleading. I was wired with a kind of clarity I hadn't felt in years. She went to bed before midnight like nothing had happened. No tears, no apology, just a quiet retreat upstairs and a locked door. Like I was the guest now. An inconvenience. A phase. I sat downstairs in the dark, staring at the calendar reminder she forgot to delete. Hotel key drop-off, 8 p.m. That wasn't a meeting. That was an arrangement. A passing of the torch from one life to another. But she didn't know I'd spent the last few hours pulling receipts. Screenshots. Timestamps. Photos she accidentally synced to the wrong folder. I had enough proof to make her life unravel in every direction. Her job, her social circle, her quiet little curated image online. She was always so careful, so clean, so fake. But now I had her truth, and I knew exactly where to use it. I started with a simple message. Not to her. To Anthony Lane, who I found in her hidden contacts folder under the name Marvin Yoga. Cute. I didn't threaten him. I didn't insult him. I just sent a single photo. Maddie, wearing my hoodie, sitting on his bed, with the caption she'd typed to him herself. He still has no idea. Read. No reply. 5 minutes later, another message came in from a new number. Who is this? I replied with a screenshot of Maddie's voice memo. The one where she whispered that I was too soft and would just walk away. This time, I added one sentence of my own. Wrong. Nothing after that. But I knew I'd just cracked their fake little world open. By the time morning came, I was sitting at our kitchen table sipping coffee like it was any other day. When Maddie came down, she looked half alive, red-eyed, stiff, wearing the robe I bought her 2 Christmases ago. I didn't say a word. She tried to sit across from me, but hesitated. I don't want this to get ugly, she said, her voice like sandpaper. I raised an eyebrow. Then why did you build ugly and move into it? She didn't answer. I slid a small stack of printed screenshots across the table. She stared at them, but didn't touch them. They were her own messages, her own photos, her own lies. I've got backups, I said. One drive online, one on a flash drive mailed to my brother in case anything dramatic happens. She looked up at me then, really looked. The fake calm melted, and what replaced it was fear. Actual fear. Not because I yelled, but because I didn't. Because I wasn't flinching anymore. I wasn't begging for truth. She tried to recover. This doesn't have to be war. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. You already started it. You just thought I'd never fight back. And that's when I told her I'd made a decision. Not about staying. Not about leaving. About something else. Something that would make her heart drop faster than any affair ever could. Because if she thought she could control how this ended, she was about to learn how wrong she was. She didn't speak for a full minute after I told her. Just stared at me, eyes blinking fast, like she couldn't compute what I'd said. I repeated it slowly, calmly, each word like a pin pulled from a grenade. I already filed. Filed what? She asked, even though she knew. Separation. Digital submission. Time-stamped. Attorney signed. I sent it in at 4:17 this morning while you were still dreaming about your little hotel handoff. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, maybe beg, maybe insult me, but nothing came out. I stood up and poured another cup of coffee while she just sat there, still wearing my last gift to her like a joke. I didn't care anymore. I wasn't here for reconciliation or closure. I was here to make it real. I listed emotional fraud. I added casually. And adultery. That's not provable, she started, but I cut her off. I have messages, voicemails, calendar entries, GPS logs. The burner phone, Maddie. Your burner phone. With hotel timestamps and photos and texts you thought you deleted. Her shoulders dropped. Not in surrender, in realization. She knew she'd underestimated me. Again, she thought I'd disappear quietly. That I'd walk away to protect my pride, or worse, to protect her. Then came the shift I was waiting for. She stood up, tried to flip it, that classic manipulation tone she used when things slipped from her fingers. I made a mistake, she said. A stupid, selfish one. But don't throw everything away over this. Over this. That phrase made my chest burn. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You didn't trip and fall into another man's hotel room. This wasn't a mistake. This was a project. Something you planned. She reached out across the table, and for a second, I could almost see the Maddie I used to love. The one who used to tuck her knees under herself when she read. The one who left notes in my work bag. The one who made pancakes in ugly Christmas pajamas. But that Maddie was gone. Replaced. She replaced herself. So I didn't flinch when I gave her the last piece. I'm moving out today, I said. But not before stopping by your office. Her brows furrowed. What does my job have to do with this? Oh, nothing, I said. Except your yoga buddy works there too, right? Now she really panicked. Her mouth opened. Her eyes darted toward her phone. Relax, I said. I'm not going to ruin your life. Just realign it. Let a few people see who you really are. Not out of revenge. Out of fairness. You can't just. I already did, I said. That was the truth. I had already sent a secure, anonymous message with just enough evidence to HR, not to get her fired, but to make sure she'd never feel completely safe turning corners in that office again. Just enough to break her illusion of invisibility. I saw it land. That crack in her voice. That tremor in her fingers as she reached for the phone and locked the screen again. You're cruel, she said. No, I said. You were just so used to me being kind that you confused silence for weakness. And then I walked upstairs, packed a single duffel bag, left my wedding band in the sock drawer, and stepped over the broken trust one last time. She didn't follow. Not yet. But I knew she would. And when she did, it wouldn't be to apologize. It would be to beg. I thought I'd feel empty after walking out that door. I didn't. I thought there'd be regret or hesitation, maybe some pathetic hope that she'd come running barefoot into the street, begging for forgiveness. She didn't. The street stayed quiet. And the silence? It was the first peace I'd felt in months. The weirdest part was how easy it was to detach once I saw her clearly, not as the woman I married, but as the woman she became when she thought no one was watching. She spent so long living two lives, she forgot which one was real. But I hadn't. I remembered who I was before all of this, before the suspicion, the paranoia, the quiet humiliation. And it turns out, that guy was still in there. Just tired. Just buried. I moved in with my brother for a while. He didn't ask questions. Just handed me a spare key and let me crash in his guest room. No judgment. I spent the next few weeks doing things I hadn't done in years. Sleeping in. Reading. Cooking actual food. Fixing things around the house. Laughing again. Slowly, that fog, the one I didn't even realize I'd been living in, started to clear. Meanwhile, Maddie texted. At first, just once. You left your charger. Then more. We need to talk. I think we made a mistake. Can we undo this? I miss you. I never responded. Not out of spite, but because I didn't miss her. I missed who I thought she was. But that version? She existed only in my head. The real Maddie was still scheduling hotel meetups, still rehearsing apologies she didn't mean, still trying to patch holes in a ship she drilled through herself. One evening, I saw her name flash across my screen again. This time I blocked it. And when I did, I felt this strange, warm relief in my chest. Like I'd just finished something important. Not a breakup, not a divorce, but a cleansing. A permanent goodbye to the version of myself that tolerated lies wrapped in affection. And then, something happened I didn't expect. A few weeks after moving out, I went to a bookstore downtown. I hadn't meant to go in. It just started raining, and I ducked inside. That's where I met her, Lana. She was standing in the aisle reading the back of a mystery novel and mumbling to herself about how the blurbs spoiled the plot. She caught me smiling and rolled her eyes, embarrassed. We started talking. About books. About endings. About people who disappoint us and the stories we write to protect ourselves from them. It wasn't love at first sight. It was better. It was quiet. Safe. Real. We didn't rush. We didn't pretend. She didn't hum when she lied, because she didn't lie. She didn't flinch at honesty. She leaned into it. Now, months later, I don't think about Maddie much. When I do, it's not with anger. It's with this weird, distant gratitude. Not because of what she did, but because it pushed me to finally wake up. She taught me how fragile trust is. Lana showed me what it looks like when someone protects it. So no, I didn't burn Maddie's life down. I just walked out of it and built something better.